Was he a bald fraud or a secret tactical genius? Erik Ten Hag had a controversial say at Man United. On one hand, he brought trophies back to the Reds, beating Man City in the FA Cup final and winning the Carabao Cup a year prior. On the other hand, his league finish in the second season was incredibly poor. Man United finished 8th, an all-time low in the Premier League era. However, Man United did finish 3rd in Erik Ten Hag's first season. The style of play was a lot more fluid, and many actually believed in Ten Hag at this point. He beat Man City at Old Trafford, despite taking a heavy beating at the Etihad, and he managed to get Man United in a 3-way title race conversation for just a few weeks. Why was Ten Hag's first season so much better than his second? If you look at Erik Ten Hag's squad in his first season, it was mostly an inherited squad. He brought in the likes of Casemiro, Antony and Malacia, but these weren't the worst of transfers. Amad Diallo came back from a loan, Man United loaned Dubravka from Newcastle, and Eriksen came in on a free. The most successful transfer for Ten Hag was probably Lisandro Martinez, who was not great, but he wasn't woeful like some other defenders at the club. Ten Hag's first transfer window had some bad and some good, nothing really out of the ordinary. Combine this with a competent squad being ready-made for Ten Hag, and he got a chance to show his level. He lost his first 2 games against Brighton and Brentford, but after that he won 4 games in a row, including top of the league Arsenal and Liverpool. Inconsistency would seem to strike in the first half of the season, however. Draws against weaker sides such as Leeds and Crystal Palace saw Man United drop down the table, and a humiliating 6-3 defeat to Man City at the Etihad was enough to raise questions. Ten Hag also started his Europa League campaign off with a defeat to Real Sociedad, but then Ten Hag started winning games again. Man United was not poor, it was inconsistent, at least for the time being. In the next 9 games, United would win 7 and draw 2. The 2 draws to Newcastle United and Chelsea, no weak teams by any means. A league loss to Aston Villa was made right by beating them in the Carabao Cup the next week. And with that, Man United began another 9-game winning streak, which ended when they drew Crystal Palace, and then lost to top of the league Arsenal. So far this season, Man United had shown improvement. They were 4th in the league and in the Carabao Cup semi-final. They eventually went to the final of the Carabao Cup after beating Nottingham Forest 5-0 on aggregate. They also advanced to 3rd in the league after beating Leeds United once again. They knocked out Xavi's Barcelona out of the Europa League, the same Barcelona team that would go on and win La Liga that season. And then United won the Carabao Cup final 2-0 against Newcastle. From there on, Man United would flirt around the 3rd and 4th spot for the rest of the season, eventually finishing 4th and reaching an FA Cup final. They lost it to Man City, but put on a valiant display. But Man City's treble could not be denied. At this point, Man United's fans still believed in Ten Hag, and indeed, Ten Hag mostly used players that had been there since before him. Casemiro had not dropped off quite as much yet, Bruno Fernandes was performing well, and there were a few young players in the squad that showed potential. So how did this all fall apart in the second season? In his second season at Man United, Erik Ten Hag began making transfers to attempt to improve his squad, making the signings of Rasmus Højlund, Mason Mount and Andre Onana. All of them ended up flopping. Bayindir, Johnny Evans and Sergio Reguilon all came in as underwhelming transfers. Not quite flops like the aforementioned, but not the level they needed to be. Amrabat was the only successful transfer that Man United made this window. Or should I say, that Ten Hag made. for all these players were the ones he had handpicked. This is where Ten Hag failed. He had shown his ability at improving players like Rashford and at competing with strong teams, but he had never shown his ability in creating a balanced team. There have been managers like this before. Take Liverpool's Jurgen Klopp. He was notoriously left out of the transfer process, whereas Pep Guardiola at Man City has the final say in any transfer. Jurgen Klopp was the last guy they'd ask, but Jurgen Klopp was a great tactical manager. Despite receiving players he did not want, most of those players ended up becoming his best. This was not a failing on Jurgen Klopp's part. Jurgen Klopp trusted his scouts to bring him the players he needed, because he was aware that talent ID was not a skill of his. But at Man United, they handed the castle keys to a new, young manager. Because he had one good season with them, they let go of all precautions and protocol. His word, their command. It is not Erik Ten Hag's fault that he was thrown into this role. He was appointed to it. Ten Hag had no reason to turn it down either. It was an honor for most managers. But the Man United board completely failed to protect Ten Hag from his own shortcomings. And this culminated in Ten Hag making his own squad worse, making Man United perform at a lower level, and finishing 8th, a whole 5 spots lower than where they finished last season. But still, Ten Hag managed to find his way to an FA Cup final. This time he won it. He won back-to-back trophies at Man United. So maybe they could still give him a second chance. And this is when the Man United board screwed up big time. They let Ten Hag choose his own players all over again. Once more, the Man United squad got worse, and Erik Ten Hag would be sacked 7 points away from top 4. At the time, everyone was happy about it, but the managers that have come in since have only made United look worse. Why was Ten Hag outperforming these managers with the same squad? Is he not a horrible manager? This is where the media often falls short. The media only looks at results and not performances, whereas I prefer to look at performances rather than results. A manager can perform poorly across a season, but still win the league title. Pep Guardiola was tactically outclassed in a lot of games during the 4-peat season. However, Man City had the best striker in the world, accompanied with some of the best defenders in the world, the best goalkeeper in the world, and the best player in the world at defensive midfield. So they won the league title anyway. Ten Hag had actively made his squad worse with his incompetent transfer management, but his tactics were not so abhorrent. It is easy to look at a defeat and say the manager failed. At times this is true, at other times the players are simply shit. Ten Hag deserved the blame for the transfers he signed off on. However, I do wonder, what if United never gave him this power to begin with? What if, after the FA Cup win, Man United handed over transfers to the sporting director and simply left Ten Hag in charge of coaching a squad? If United was so confident in their sporting director, then surely this could have worked out fine. Sometimes it's easy to analyze this from hindsight, but one thing must be said. Man United's board has failed time and again to adequately adapt to their managers. So is Ten Hag a poor manager? I think you should decide on that one on yourself. All I can say is that the biggest problem at Man United remains obvious. Hello, thank you for watching. Would you please consider liking and subscribing? It really does help a lot. And I know for a fact that 60% of you aren't subscribed, so get to it. Bye.